wrestler when I was a child, about 13. I started wrestling because I enjoyed watching pro wrestling on television. I wrestled through high school and through college. I was injured at Delaware State University in the MEAC Conference Division II. Somebody suggested I started training in Baltimore for pro wrestling, and I got my feet wet there before coming back up to here.
Now you mentioned about amateur wrestling.
Yes.
So that was your background? What was your background in amateur sports before you started wrestling?
Wrestling, football, track and field, and basketball. And the reason I didn't play basketball for school is because it was the same season as wrestling, but I was about equal.
Now your story's real interesting because you came up from Baltimore. How'd you find out about Johnny Rodz?
Well, actually, originally I'm from Queens. I was going to school in Delaware, and how I found out about Baltimore was a friend who was from Baltimore that was in Delaware with me that suggested I try wrestling in Baltimore. That's how I got down to Baltimore. The way that I found out about New York was I had a friend who used to work over on Wall Street with me, and she had a friend that boxed here, and of course Gleason's gym, boxing and wrestling, so I found out about it that way.
So he says, yeah, but you know, I'm staying down here for now with my girlfriend, and I said, well, what kind of work you do? He goes, I'm in ministry. I said, what? He says, I'm in ministry. I first thought he said he's a minister, so I asked the question again. I said, oh, and I found it strange, you know. I said, well, okay, ministry, he wants to be a professional wrestler. I said, this is interesting, this guy. And he looks great, you know, his character, he looked like a professional wrestler.
From Baltimore to New York, I'm quite certain that you passed up a lot of other wrestling schools or wrestling clubs. What was it about Johnny Rodz Club that wanted to make you come here and learn professional wrestling here?
Well, in order to make it somewhere, you have to come from somewhere. I believe that this is somewhere. Johnny Rodz has produced and continues to produce, and that's why I believe that this was the place for me to have as the best launching pad for my career.
Could you tell us something about your wrestling persona, the person that you become when you're in the ring? How'd you come up with that?
I believe that any character, to be good, has to be a small part of somebody's true person. However demented, twisted, outlandish it may appear to be, it has to be somewhere inside of that person. And the character that I personify, I would say, growing up in Jamaica, Queens, that this is something I saw as realistic that other people may not find as realistic, but I'm from where I'm from, and that's why I am who I am.
Now, Jason, there are a lot of stories out there about professional wrestlers when they first start breaking into business, how they have to struggle. What happens when you go home? So you're out, you do a show, and you go home. What's your life like?
Well, depending on where the show may be at, if it's out on the road, most of the time I try to make it home,
Right.
Because you know the money and the miles, spending money for hotels and all that stuff. This level is not something very practical, so I try to get back, and if I make it back 5 o'clock in the morning, that's when I make it home. If it happens to be a show here in Brooklyn at Gleason's, usually I get a shower as quick as I can and go to work as a bouncer at a nightclub in the city.
That's what you're doing for a living right now?
Yes.
Is there anything you'd like to tell young kids who aspire to become a pro wrestler? What would you say to them?
I would say the first thing I would suggest is to finish school, and if you're in school, get on your wrestling team. Fundamentals are definitely used in this as well as anywhere else. It's good for you to have. I would say stick with it, stay in the gym, stay healthy, stay away from injuries, and find a mentor that's qualified. Find somebody that has trained somebody else that has done it for real.
You sound great, and I believe this guy got a future.
Yeah, he seems like a good guy.
Yeah, he's got something going. So I think that maybe in the future we're going to see a TristanSpade performance.
The moniker is so true, unpredictable. Great man, a great teacher, has taught me the business from many different aspects. And, I would say that